And we're live. Hello and welcome to Mage Talk Live, the Magento community podcast. Unless you're listening after the fact via audio, then it's not live.
And it's not live, and screw you.
I'm sure. Oh, and I made the canonical mistake of having Windows open. Yeah, I have Windows open, so I'm hearing the audio in my.
Oh, that's classic Kalen. Classic Kalen.
Classic Kalen move.
Dude, what is going on? We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We got a whole chat full of people. Big shout outs to everybody. Yeah. Gonna start on time, people say. Yes, we're starting on time.
You don't need to hear that noise from you. But we did it.
You know what? Yeah, we had faith in ourselves. We had a lot of belief in ourselves, and we persevered and we started on time.
Gosh darn it, we did it. And I thought you were going to be 5 minutes late today, which I was not going to be. But yeah. You pulled it off. You pulled it off.
I do. Every now and then I surprise you in a positive way.
Every once in a while. It's not often. It really is not often. But
it's not often at all.
Yeah.
Not often at all. Also, I like the repositioning of your lights.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Less of a shadow, but more wrinkles on the paper. And I think at least you're heading in the right way.
Dang it, you're seeing my wrinkle. I didn't know if anybody was catching the wrinkles. So now I'm going to be super self-conscious about the wrinkles. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. It's honestly, your goatee distracts from all of it.
So good. Okay. Good. Yeah, it's the good thing about the goatee, in all honesty, is it distracts from all the other imperfections of the face, of which I have many, and so it's good for that. It's a good tool.
By the way, since you have your shirt on, or you have a shirt you're repping, I want to show that I have a shirt nearby.
Did you get your shirt already?
No, I didn't. I didn't. But you're not looking at the screen, so you can't.
Beautiful.
See it. 2017. Look at that.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
I'm very excited about that shirt.
Nice work.
Speaking of shirts, other people are very excited about the Something Digital shirt. They keep posting that. The Stranger Things send up. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see a couple of those. I'm actually super sad because what happened was I got that shirt on the first day, lost it. Brendan had it. He was going to hand it to me. We didn't connect with each other. So I don't have it. I was going to rock it in literally every video I record. But I don't have it. I don't have it. So I'm actually very sad about that.
Dang, son. You know what's funny is I didn't think about this. We've got 20 plus people in the in the chat right now. The Magento community productivity quotient is dipping right now.
We are, well, look, I like to think we increase productivity because we're going to be giving tips, tricks. We're going to be talking about.
No, we do not increase productivity. We certainly don't increase our own productivity. I'll tell you that.
We're going to be talking about a lot of informative things.
No, this is actually good stuff today
that you need to know, dear Magento developer.
Yeah, for sure.
We got to get some shout outs. Navarre in the room, trolling me as per usual, which I greatly appreciate.
Is it Barnier or Barnier?
Navarre, help us out in the chat if it's I'm guessing Barnier. It's got to be. I feel like it's probably a French thing. We've got.
I was taught in Spanish class that a double R, you have to roll it. Navarre.
Is it a double R? It is a double R. Navarre.
Navarre.
Yeah, like Navarro is a common like Spanish or Mexican last name. So that's a cool name actually. I really like that name. We need to know more about the origins of that, Navarro. So help us out.
Kalen's fourth child's name will be Navarre.
Yeah, or I won't have a fourth child. But definitely one of those two options.
You know what would be really cool is if you could find someone named Navarro.
Wow, I bet that exists. That probably.
I mean, my wife's name is Jackie, last name Jackson, Jackie Jackson. So,
you know what? I didn't even make that connection until just now. How is that even possible?
Truly, you can say though, she knew what she was getting into when she was heading into that relationship.
I mean, unless
she thought about it.
Unless you just never told her your last name. I mean, you're a Florida man. You may have a criminal record. Maybe you just lied about your last name.
Right? You don't know
the whole entire time.
You don't know my life.
you don't know me. And then, when you were signing the marriage certificate, you put that last name and she's like, Phillip, what's going on
Jackson?
Here? We've got Kyle Ban Savage in the room. Coolest last name on the planet. Shout out to, we've also got Eric. I'm a little butthurt because Eric didn't want to send out an email blast for us. So I'm going to be trolling him the whole entire episode.
You and the email blast, you just, I I believe that you are a spammer at heart.
It's kind of it's kind of in there deep, bro. It's in there very deep.
You find a way to spam people in everything you do.
It's kind of what I do. I had this whole Craigslist emailing operation back in the day in like 2005.
I heard about this.
It runs deep, man, and so I don't know what else to say. We got Damian Culota.
A culata is something you buy at Dunkin' Donuts.
Damian Culota. By the way, did you notice? Because I thought it was just me, and then literally like 2 other people mentioned it to me when Ben Marks was announcing the Masters. He was doing such a beautiful job of pronouncing all the names right, Japanese, German. But then when he did the American names, like Brett Peterson, he did it with like a German accent or something.
Brett Peterson.
It was fantastic. It was
Phillip Jackson.
It was like a Japanese
Felipe Jackson.
Phillip Jackson. Arigato gozaimasu.
Hirokazu Nishi.
Yeah. So
Phillip Jackson.
We gotta get Hirokazu on the stream.
We do. That would be fantastic. He's the best, actually. Okay.
Joseph Levy, Mike McCoy. I could go on and on. Let's get into some content.
We really could get into some content. I'm going to actually get rid of this first one here. I love you, Vinay.
Sean McManus.
I don't have time for you.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Actually, no, I will. I'm going to give a quick shout out. If you haven't checked it out yet, Mage2.tv, our good buddy, my good buddy and yours, Vinay Kopp, who actually physically, like, for once and for all, is no longer in beta. I think this is an actual legitimate site now. So it's a great learning resource for the community if you're looking for training or guided training, self-guided training for Magento 2, and you want to go deep on it. Mage2.tv. Thanks to Vinay for putting that together. He's also an article that'll be landing later this week. We have a bunch of interviews that we've done with people in the community for magetalk.com. So if you're only on YouTube Live, or if you're only on our RSS feed, or you're listening through the podcatcher, then you're right. Then you're missing half of the story, because
missing a whole lot of the action.
There's a lot going on at magetalk.com. Somebody said the other day, I just started listening to your podcast. I wish there was a way for me to catch up and know, like, what are the things I should listen to if I'm new. And I said, well, if you go to magetalk.com and click on new around here, there's literally 5 episodes that are handpicked for that purpose. But
we've done all the work for you. We've laid it out. We've packaged up the episodes.
Yes.
And Vinay did a community faves list.
Yes, right? That's what it is. So if you hashtag community faves over there, we have 2 already from David Manners, Sherry Rohde, who already contributed and talked. We do a little interview with them about what their favorite episodes are of Mage Talk and why. And Vinay just gave us his, and Rebecca Brockton gave us hers. And so that'll be the next edition and land at the end of this week.
Any particular episodes that were interesting in his list?
I would have to go pull it up, but
we'd have to actually look at it. We haven't looked. Listen. Yeah. We don't have time to look at these lists. Okay, we have lists on lists on lists.
I've got lists on lists on lists.
Talk incorporated lists. We've got piles of.
I ain't got time for this. Actually, I have it right here. So one of his favorites, which is actually really funny, episode 134, which was our interview with Bob Moore, formerly Magento.
Yeah.
He actually really liked about what he liked about that story is Phillip and Kalen jamming away talking about stuff that they don't know, which I think actually could just be the subtitle of our podcast.
That could be the entire subtitle. And I have to say, one of the things I'm really excited about this live stream, we're if you haven't noticed, we're doubling down on the live stream life. And
that's just because you're doing this right now. In like a month, when you lose interest, there will never be a live stream.
We'll see, my friend. We'll see if I burn out, because I have lost my mind a tiny bit to the live streaming game. I'm not going to lie about that, but no, but I really think it's actually cool that people can react on the fly, because we do sometimes just not know that much about a particular topic, most topics. And so allowing people to chime in, allowing people to correct the record, so there's not like a 7-week lag, and things like that, I think is cool. So feel free to jump in and correct the record if you know anything. Obviously, if you're Eric Heilman, you probably don't know anything, so there's not much you're going to be able to correct.
My gosh.
But other than we already told each other we're going to be trolling each other.
Pretty freaking rough. Okay, so yeah, Vinay did all that stuff, but Vinay also did a Nomad recently. He did a Nomad Mage. I'm actually weaving together a bunch of self promotion. I assume you'll do the same.
As one does,
as you are wont to do. He did a V9. V9 did a Nomad Mage edition in back in April, which was I think just before Imagine, which he talked about ClojureScript and how ClojureScript he's using ClojureScript to replace some of the hairier parts of working with UI components to make it a little easier for himself. And so it was a really interesting talk. He gives some live coding where it actually is kind of mind-blowing, very exciting sort of stuff if you want to learn sort of a new processor pipeline. I assume some of that's on mage2.tv. He's very excited about ClojureScript right now.
He's super into Clojure. Yeah. I've seen it.
Yeah, and actually, so you were talking about looking for someone with Knockout JS experience, I think.
I was, yeah, because somebody's looking for somebody. Pretty interesting agency is hitting some snags with Knockout JS. I guess there's still some core bugs and stuff that are being worked out in M2, or whatever. And so I started putting feelers out. I'm like, so there are, right? Because I don't actually do work with Magento 2 myself. But so I started putting feelers out. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a piece of cake. And it's like a lot of the front end people I know haven't done too much knockout stuff. You know, they're maybe just doing theming and stuff like that. So it's interesting. It seems like you know, people are still getting over that learning curve. I don't know what your guys' experience is.
Yeah, there's a learning curve. I don't know how I don't know how much more to say. There's a learning curve. And it's also sort of sad because the learning curve has been over the last 2 years. It continues to, I mean, not necessarily on the Knockout JS side. But
are UI components tied into Knockout JS?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that is the data binding for UI components.
Got it.
That's anyway.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I got to get through these shout outs. Andrew Sanjawala, we haven't even got through. We got so much stuff to get through here. Shotbow. What's up, man?
Why are you even trying to pronounce people you don't know? What's that all about?
I'm not pronouncing people. I'm pronouncing their names, technically speaking. But
okay. Well, anyway, I think that there's a lot of substance in having experience with a particular library. Like if you have a jQuery heavy, you know, application or front end tech architecture, front end tech stack, having some experience in jQuery is important. But in actuality,
shout out jQuery.
Yeah, you are hashtag jQuery for life.
I told somebody, actually the same person that was looking to hire the knockout person, they were like, oh man, Commerce Hero thing that looks really cool. they thought I did it in Node.js. I was like, I did it in jQuery, and they just like emoji faced me to death.
Yeah, that's your thing. Well,
it was not a fun experience.
You somehow know how to bootstrap things and get them working to where it's like just serviceable enough, and you always do it on the same tech stack knowledge that you've had for the last 10 years. I think is
basically
freaking impressive. If I'm being really honest.
Thank you. By the way, Navarre confirmed it's pronounced Navarre Barnier. So
Barnier.
You've got that. Also, this is cool. Dude named the Guardian username is first Mage Talk Live. He's trying to immerse himself more into the community, hoping through osmosis he'll absorb some worthwhile knowledge. We hope the same thing for you.
He's also asking a particular question about how to add your styling to individual modules. I think, dude, you actually tweeted this at me the other day, and I'm just going to go on record saying I have no idea. We don't even use the less engine at all at Something Digital in Magento 2 at all. When we only run into that whole part when we're having being the operative word, having to use a third-party extension, which requires less support, or when we're in a rescue situation, we're bringing on a Magento 2 site that's troubled or a troubled build. Otherwise, when we build sites from scratch, we built our own accelerator front-end theme at Something Digital called Bryant Park, which is built on top of Snowdog's SaaS
You got to talk a little about this, because I know you try not to do too much self-promotion on SD, but I don't know if you ever talked about the accelerator. First of all, it's a great name. But I mean,
endlessly copied, but yes.
But you've talked to me, I think, a little bit about how you're packaging things up, but I'm kind of curious to know a little bit more about.
Yeah, I mean, like the 2-second elevator pitch on it is, creating Magento sites is requires a lot of deep knowledge and skill set. And the tech stack for Magento represents where things probably were 3 or 4 years ago. I think from a modernization perspective, and the skill set of our team and the ongoing support and availability of like the types of front end developers we wanted to hire, we wanted to build something that we felt like was more sustainable from an engineering perspective in the long term, and set us up to be able to do things like React components in Magento 2 builds. And we already had a bunch of tech stack and pipeline for that with SaaS on Magento 1. So we had already been doing this for 3 or 4 years now. So, the Snowdog basis for a SaaS-based theme, basically gave us the ability to move away from less and having Magento own the asset generation for our front-end theme components. So since we got away from that already and using Snowdog, we felt like we would take it a step further. And now we've created a full WCAG 2.0, 1A level compliant, fully keyboard navigable, accessibility.
What's WCAG?
It's the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines for having accessible websites for, screen readers and braille readers, that sort of thing. So it's fully tricked out for a lot of like, it's based 100% on Bluefoot. It's based 100% on best practices for accessibility, which are, some things that we've put a lot of time and effort into building expertise around. So, and it represents a more modern way of doing Magento that I think will be sustainable into 2.3 and beyond. So, we call it Bright Park, and our accelerator includes a lot of things. It's like inbuilt, like you have built-in pre-built integrations to ERP through flat file integrations and some formats. We also have, URapid Flow sort of built in and baked into every build we do. And Extento. We also have a bunch of really cool sort of fun things that we've developed that help drive front end performance, and first meaningful paint time, which we think is the right metric to be tracking, not just time to first byte.
That's a new one. I don't know. First meaningful paint. What does that mean?
So the first meaningful paint is basically. So paint is, oh gosh, this is a rabbit hole. So paint is the time that it takes for a browser to
actually render to the screen. Yeah.
Right. So a lot of JavaScript, typography, CSS, those are things that can slow down paint to the front end. And so if you look at like webpagetest.com, and you look at like their film strip that they do, where they actually output like what your site looks like over time and how it paints onto the page over time. The first meaningful paint would be like when you actually have content that's useful to the consumer.
Okay.
And so we track that.
So not like an empty background page, but like, do you have a precise technical definition of meaningful paint, or is it just
for us? It's generally above the fold content. And so we can do some interesting things like critical path CSS, where we're actually grabbing stuff that's critical path, meaning above the fold, whatever that means anymore with 5 billion, screen sizes in the world. But, grabbing navigation elements, promo header, certain pieces like the logo of the website, other interactive content like, a Bluefoot component that might be above the fold, like a rotator or something like that. Or on a product detail page, the buy button and the product title. Those things are all super meaningful. And, we want to limit things in a really smart way, like flash of unstyled text. So, we want to limit FOUT. We want to increase or decrease the amount of time it takes to have meaningful content on the page. And we want to decrease the amount of time in general for time to first byte, because we feel like that, that is something that's measurable from an application performance perspective. But we put so much effort into Bryant Park which is our accelerator, or the theme that is in our accelerator, that we feel like, we've created what is probably, in our opinion, the best front end experience that's still compatible with Fastly for cloud, still compatible with Varnish, limits the amount of round trip that's required to for
that's solid, man.
For actual user-based content,
right?
User-centric.
Why is it called Bryant Park?
So our office in Midtown Manhattan is right across from the park that's behind the New York Public Library, and that park is called Bryant Park.
Classy. I like that. That's pretty dope, dude.
Yeah,
couple more.
Yeah. Go
Couple
ahead.
more Matthew Bean in the house, Coder on Code. And then, we just answered the Guardians question. David Stilson, what's up, buddy? And then we got a question, actually, which is relevant here from Sean, which is, do you try to optimize the paint repaint count?
Yeah, only when we're being held to account on things like reducing jank. Anything that has like movement, like we've done a bunch of, so Gil Greenberg, who's one of our developers, is really helping us push the envelope on like UI and UX animation, and like the interactivity of elements on a page. So you don't just have these still static, websites but things that come into view that load in progressively actually look like they're alive, so the site has some movement to it. And those things can introduce any parallax or anything like that has the opportunity to introduce repaint, and especially with reflow, the way that things come into a website, especially if you have typography, those are all things that produce opportunity for jank. And so that is something we optimize for. But paint and repaint would be constrained to a very specific metric that we would probably be held to account on a project by a client. If the client doesn't really care about it, we would put as much time as appropriate into something that would benefit all of our clients and not just the one.
Yeah, right? I mean, some clients are gonna really want to have that kind of like premium, very finesse animation kind of experience and stuff like that. And then for others, it's like, hey, make sure the carousel does what it's supposed to do. Right.
It's still super important. Like, there are a lot of techniques. One of which, I feel like, hold on. Does Sean work for you?
What's that?
Sean, do you work for JH?
No, Sean McManus. No, I forget who. He recently moved to work for Magento Cloud.
Okay. Yeah, there's somebody who works for JH that actually gave a really great talk at Mage Titans Manchester about the types of things you have to do, like tombstoning content, to sort of game those meaningful paint moments. Like there's a whole realm of this kind of user interaction and user experience that requires, some really thoughtful and deep insight in the way that people interact with websites. And, that's a thing we do, but it's not built in necessarily to the base of Bryant Park. But anyway, I find there is a thing that is a natural segue here, which is we have to take on the effort now that we have a SaaS front end theme for Magento. That means that we own that. So we have to rely on Luma, or the base Magento's blank theme, Magento's base theme, as much as possible, so we get all the security benefits of product updates. But at the same time, we have to train new hires at SD, to learn to work with plain Magento, because you will encounter plain vanilla Magento at some point. And so we got a new resource there this week, in the last week and a half. No Frills Layout 2 from Alan Storm came out.
That's right.
And I hadn't repped it on the podcast yet. I bought it myself and I looked at it. So good. So good.
That's awesome, man. I was it was bringing me back, because that's the first book that I bought, like first week getting into Magento, was the No Frills Layouts Magento 1. And so that's super cool. Everybody check that. By the way, Sean did say he presented info about it at Imagine 2 years ago. So maybe he did do what you're talking about.
Yeah, and Rebecca actually came in and said that Shane Osborne is the person I'm thinking of. from
there you go.
The Titans Manchester.
It's the live stream at work, man. It's the magic of the live stream at work.
This whole thing of being corrected live, though,
it's kind of cool.
I gotta get off. I gotta
accept it. Yeah. The problem. Here's the problem. The problem is that you're a big deal now, right? So you gotta come back down.
I'm on a sticker, man. Look at this.
You're on a sticker.
I'm on a flipping sticker.
No, but it's cool because, and by the way, my buddy Steve, if you see Commerce Steve in the chat, my buddy Steve is helping out to moderate. He's also tweeting things out to that, as we mentioned, people so they can join in on the conversation. But yeah, so that's awesome.
Dude, also that just on a note about the sticker, thanks. Shout out to Atwix for making these stickers and bringing them to Imagine. We've got this on a t-shirt now. So we actually, just to rep it, we have t-shirts available, which we should put a link. Actually, I should do that while we're on the stream. We should put a link to our swag store on magetalk.com. And when you buy the t-shirt or anything from the swag store, is that right? Anything from the swag store benefits OSMI?
Yep, that's right. Yeah. Anything at all.
All proceeds, any profits that come from the swag store, the Teespring store that we've come up with for Mage Talk, in combination with Natalico and Mark Lewis, we love you. Hashtag shout out Mark Lewis. We're donating all proceeds of that to OSMI, or Open Sourcing Mental Illness. So we're which I got the inspiration for that from Rebecca, who did raised, I think, over 10 grand recently. So we're only $9,900 shy of that target currently. So we're very close. I have to ask you, if you're sitting to yourself thinking, what cause should I donate to in 2018? And your thought is, if I could get something out of this, what would I get out of donating to a good cause? Someone else to have orange hair, or a pretty friggin' sweet t-shirt with Kalen on it. I'm pretty sure the option is... Isn't the choice clear? The choice is clear. Isn't the choice really a no-brainer? A t-shirt that you're going to have forever, or orange hair that somebody's probably already dyed back to a normal color. I'm just saying. I'm not going to say what I think. All I'm going to say is I think the choice is clear. And I'm going to leave it at that. But also, Matthew Bean also gave a shout out to an endorsement of the book, a stunning endorsement. And yeah, so yeah, no, I mean, it's cool. I've been thinking. Sorry, no, go ahead. I'm checked because we're 30 minutes of the show. We've got some really important content, and I want to be the guy that's the bummer, if you don't mind. No, that's okay. I just want to remind you that if we could go for 2 hours, our watch time metrics would be amazing. Yeah, I know that you think that people watch more when it's longer. That's only true when it's live. When it's longer after the live, it's not. Break it into 2 episodes. Hey, anyways, that sounds like a content pipeline nightmare. That sounds awesome. Let's do that. No, but we do have a ton of stuff we want to talk about. So you keep driving that forward. I'll keep derailing us into the community, and that's good. We'll get this thing done. It's the two disparate paths forming into one. Into one clear direction. Absolutely. Okay, so the thing nobody's talking about, that in my mind everybody should be talking about and be freaking out about, mass panic in the streets, a la War of the Worlds, Orson Welles, the whole thing. Magento 2.0, the 0.0 is important here, reached end of life in March 2018. That is interesting. Nobody knew it. Nobody had any idea. We're all sitting here arguing about Magento 1 end of life, and then 2.0 quietly disappears with not so much of that. We live in a world where 1.14 is still supported and 2.0 is not. I don't know that I don't know that I know anybody on 2.0. Like, everybody seems to be on maybe 2.1, 2.1. Yeah. I just want to point out, if I could, oh my God, one more time. You can. Magento 2.0 is end of life. Magento is dead. If you are on 2.0 or any sub, first of all, I hope you're not on 2.0.0, but if you're on 2.0 dot something, you are out of support. So you need to upgrade, preferably not to 2.1, because 2.1, my friend, is out of support in 13 months' time. Come 2019, June 2019, That sucker is also out of support. So if I were going to do anything, if I were you, first of all, I don't know why you haven't done it already. But if I were you, I'd be getting busy upgrading.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's well, hey, if anybody, I'm curious if anybody in the chat is on 2.0 or knows anybody on 2.0, has any clients on 2.0.
If you're not having a conversation with your clients and you work for a systems integrator who are on 2.0 that to get up to speed, get off of this live stream. You're wasting your life, and go craft an email. Spam your clients. Kalen approves. Spam your clients and tell them they need to get on 2.1 or 2.2. It's not okay. Matthew Bean's like, oh, because it's so easy to upgrade. It's not easy to upgrade. But what did we say? What did we say at Imagine? Right? Lead the charge, my friend. Go lead the charge.
You know, I will say that I've heard several people kind of independently, I think David Stilson mentioned it, independently mention that catchphrase, lead the charge. I think that people kind of internalize that message more so than previous years.
Oh, for sure.
You know, usually it's just like some crazy title, but I think people are really feeling that. But what Matthew said, he said no one is running 2.0. They all upgraded to 2.1 or 2.2 since it's so easy to upgrade. Not sure. I'm not sure if he's being. I think he is.
The quotes are sarcastic.
The quotes are sarcastic. So he's saying that the upgrade path is too hard. Well,
I'm not saying this. Listen, I feel you, but by the same token, a 1.14 to 2.0 upgrade is hard, and when that's end of life, you'll have to do the right thing and get your clients onto 2.0 too. So just do it. Like
we have a question from Andrew. I wonder if Magento would ever consider LTS long-term support / leading edge branches. I don't know what leading edge branches means, but I'm sure you do. What are your thoughts on that?
This is a good point. So we already have sort of LTS. I mean, it's not LTS. I would love LTS. True LTS would be awesome. It's something I talked about with Paul Bouvert. Rest in peace, Paul. He didn't die. He's just no longer with Magento.
Rest in peace, Paul. Yeah, we love you. We miss you so much.
Yeah, I miss you. Hugs and kisses. The problem with LTS is that, as the product marches forward and you're forced to do things that diverge, the database or the schema or something like that, you have to make meaningful breaks. And those are more major version changes. Then you're left with supporting many versions of an architecture that is fundamentally different to another. And that's also a problem. That's a problem. Effectively, 1.0 or 1.14 is LTS. 1.14 dropped. The first version of 1.14 or 1.9, which was the RWD theme, that first dropped in 2013. Okay, so if you're looking for
I was LTS, a young man back in 20.
That was LTS. That's 5 years old now.
I was so young and so innocent back then.
It'd be nice if it were advertised as LTS so people could opt which version they want to stay with. But Magento has already formally given 3-year support for all minor release versions of Magento 2. And 2-year support going forward after 2.1. So 2.1 is most stable.
I agree.
There's 3-year support for 2.0, 2.1. So that means it's 3 years from the date of release, and then we have 2 years from the date of release for 2.2 going forward. That's fine.
That's perfect. I don't want to, because here's the thing: we don't want to see long-term support on 2.0. We want to see faster iteration on the current version of the product. So I totally agree there. Guardians Carl Elder said he has a local 2.0 install. That's okay. It's not as much of an issue.
That's fine.
The Guardian said he's working on an upgrade from 1.9 to 2.2. Yeah. Obviously, that's definitely.
I was with Mark Brenton this week in Chicago for B2B Online. In fact, the whole Magento B2B Brain Trust was there. Peter Sheldon was there. Shannon Hain, Lucas Tadiano, who's a solutions consultant with Magento.
That's a t-shirt idea. The whole B2B Brain Trust with all 4 of their face silhouettes.
That'd be killer, because people love when you, without their permission, put their face on a t-shirt.
They do. I've found that out. They absolutely love it.
They love it. So here's what Mark Brenton says. He said he talked to someone at B2B Online in Chicago just this week. On Monday, he had a conversation with a merchant who is running 1.1. He said he pulled it up and saw it was the Magento Blue theme. He promptly blue chunks in the bathroom, and it was like, okay, they've been on that version of Magento for 9 years. 9 years.
What?
9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. So this stuff, it sticks around. It's going to be around for a long time. It is already sort of long term. But anyway,
hey, we got Ben Marks in the building. Come on, somebody! Shout out to Ben.
Kalen Jordan.
He's making fun of me for being itchy. I don't know. I have all these tics. It's hard to get used to being live on camera.
Yeah.
David Stilson asked about end of life for 114. As far as I know, there is not. They have not given that. They're leaving it kind of fuzzy. There's no.
Yeah, that's a conversation that shan't be had on this podcast. But there are some support issues there. We'll leave it at that. Here's the thing: I think everybody should also be concerned about. If you're not already concerned about Magento 2 end of life 2.0, and getting up to 2.1. I'll give you another scenario, which should absolutely panic you. December 2018, PHP 7.1 reaches end of life. So from a compliance and PCI perspective, Magento's got a boogie and getting 7.2 support, and it's going to be meaningful for them. And I think the question that I've got that needs to be raised is, if Magento 2.1 has support through June of next year, that means that either their 2.1 clients are out of support on the PHP side or on the Magento side somewhere for about 6 months. So from January, like between December and June of 2019, either their PHP, that's the only PHP that's compatible with Magento 2.1, needs to be patched, or Magento needs to back patch support for 7.2 into the 2.1 product and only get 6 months of benefit out of it.
Right.
So, gosh, that sounds like a rock and a hard place.
Got themselves in a pickle, that's for sure.
And community engineering is leading the charge. Lead the charge. Sorry.
See, I told you, it's really sticky.
It's so.
I think it's all you, man. I think it's all you. I think.
No, that was Mark. That was Mark. Mark did a great job.
I was just trying to be nice.
You're very nice. You're very nice, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, so community engineering is leading the charge and helping the community provide support for 7.2. There's been a lot of activity there in the last month. So if I look specifically, like, there's, the 2.2.3 release was merged in, a bunch of issues have been generated, 15 issues, 3 merged pull requests, 2 open. A bunch of those have been merged in the last 4 or 5 hours, even today. But there's not some easy problems to solve from 7.1 to 7.2. PHP drops support for encrypt, and there's like there's a whole PHP unit dependency that needs to be swapped. Like, there's a lot of things that are going to need to happen between now and the end of the I don't know.
Totally.
A lot of stuff. A lot of
things. Oh, by the way, what I was thinking was that you started talking about some things that were in Ben Roby's post about 2.3.
Oh yeah,
I know we wanted to cover. I noticed.
Did Ben Roby actually write that? That's pretty cool.
He did. Yeah. I think you posted that link in the doc. It's on the DEG Digital blog and authored by none other than Ben Roby. So we could do that if you want to get off of this depressing topic and talk about something fun like new features. You're all worried about people. Let them be relaxed. Let the people sleep. Don't worry them about these issues about backwards compatibility. Let's get excited about 2.3. Let's get excited about Page Builder, B2B, all the things.
Okay, so
such a rabble rouser.
Yeah, 7.3 is awesome. Or I'm sorry, 2.3. My God, my brain is is basically scrambled eggs at this point. So Magento 2.3. I mean, what can we say? PWA is the thing everyone's talking about. I have new clients that are asking how much PWA experience we have. That should be an indicator of basically the hype and the general awareness that even a merchant has of that technology.
Right. I was thinking about the PWA thing because, there's this thing like you talked about how, you kind of have multiple, skill sets that are going simultaneously within, SD, where you've got people on the newer tech and the older tech and things like that. And so PWA is going to come into play. Who knows? Call it 5 years, right? Is going to replace the current theming. But I was thinking there's an opportunity there. Like Magento will get there when they get there, but I think there's an opportunity there for people in the community to get there ahead of the game, to where you're just building out PWAs for all your clients, and maybe you jump frog that PWA studio, you build out your own tool set. It's one of the things I think I saw in Ben's post as well was it's going to be much cleaner to get front end developers into Magento. I was talking to somebody that has done some Magento stuff. Now they've moved into modern front end stuff. And I was like, well, do you want to do Magento or front end? They're like, well, I'd rather do the front end stuff, but whatever. So there's going to be a lot of benefits to getting to that milestone. And if agencies can get there ahead of Magento in the next year or so, I think it's going to be a huge competitive advantage.
I want to believe that. I really do. I do think that, PWA in general, progressive web apps in general are a thing. And there are some standards, like some best practices that are already being forged. It is really tough to have a commerce engine or commerce platform track at the speed that the rest of the front end, cadence tracks. So this stuff changes every 6 months. So I think while Magento is doing a really good job of building to something modern, I'm more concerned about what happens in the next 2 years and whether they keep up that cadence to keep it modern, to keep it, improving. If their approach to progressive web apps is progressive itself. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and by the way, only thing, by the way, there's so much more.
We really got to get Andrew Levine on the show. Hopefully we'll do that next week or the next week or two.
It'll be the month of Andrew Levine because he'll also be presenting on Nomad Mage on the 22nd.
Ooh, fantastic.
I'm scooping myself, which hasn't been announced
there
yet.
So, you go. Yeah.
So head on over to Nomad Mage in the next 2 days. Set a 48-hour reminder. He'll be presenting PWA Studio and go do a deep dive on its architecture.
Got it.
On Nomad.
And by the way, Ben posted in the comments, he said we have to back patch, I think. So on that question you were asking about how they're going to approach 7.1 end of life, you heard it here first, product roadmap announcements. And by the way, I just want to throw this out there. With Phil having a hard stop in 18
No.
If we pulled Ben into this and me and Ben wrote it out for another 7 hours straight, just post your thoughts in the chat. That's all I'm asking. Okay,
this can only go poorly because, like, how do you even end the show then on the audio stream? Like, you're killing me, Smalls.
I know. I apologize.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Now everybody gets to see all the things that get edited out. You get to see how the sausage
GraphQL. That's obvious. I mean, that's support that's coming in 2.3. That'll power PWA as well. Although it's not required to use in progressive web apps. You can do a lot of things without GraphQL. That'll be coming as well. This one was interesting to me. It's something I don't know too much about. But the declarative database schema, there was a lot of talk about this at Imagine. I wasn't in any of them. I'd love to have someone talk more about it. But I do believe that the old sort of installation or the database migration schema or that approach that was used in Magento 1 was abandoned. And now it's kind of a convoluted way of managing those migrations in Magento 2. I'm assuming that this was done to support that. So a new database schema of some kind that they call declarative. That doesn't sound scary at all.
So you're talking about a new database schema for the entire Magento application?
Who knows? I will not purport to even pretend to know what this is.
This is a perfect moment for us to get corrected on the fly because clearly there can't be true. So
no,
that's good. Sure. Also, Sean mentioned TLS version 1.0 is end of lifing this June.
Yep.
So you should ask your hosting provider.
TLS apocalypse.
Yeah. Eric mentioned that they had somebody yesterday ask them to enable TLS 1.0. Lol, what? Which is interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Let's before we're getting all asynchronous in our.
We are.
Speaking of asynchronous, there's an asynchronous
APIs. Their Magento has started. That's in 2.3 as well. Yep. Asynchronous API support, so that your third-party integrations, your ERP integration, will get faster response times on your initial.
By the way, I love this idea, and I'll tell you why. MailChimp has this. Their bulk send API is asynchronous in that you basically offload all of the bulk processing.
Did you just say the M word live on this podcast?
I love MailChimp. In fact, if you're going to be in Atlanta tomorrow on Thursday the 10th, May the 10th, 2018, we'll be having a live event.
I'm out of here.
Kalen's left. Kalen's left the building. We're doing a live event with MailChimp called Merchant to Merchant, something digital. We're doing a big live podcast recording. That'll be really cool. And so we'd love to see you there. It's at Ponce City Market in Atlanta. And you can talk to them about their bulk APIs and their asynchronous bulk APIs, which is really kind of fun.
Nice.
Anyway, I love this. I love this idea that we don't have to build systems that consume APIs that have to serialize themselves. We can just shove a bunch of stuff at the API and then Magento just work through it and figure it out. And that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
more of that, please.
I'm trying to remember the API that I used once that was asynchronous, and I can't remember, but it's not that common. Most APIs. Anyway,
all right. Well, let's rattle off the other features of 2.3. Page Builder obviously is probably the biggest change. So we'll be getting native Bluefoot or native. I will never not call it Bluefoot. Sorry. # sorry, not sorry. So Page Builder will be coming in 2.3, and we're going to get, a really great Page Builder tool, and it's going to be improved. It is improved already from what Bluefoot was when it launched. I'm really excited about it because Something Digital is part of the early access program, and so a bunch of our clients are going to be getting access to that early on, and that'll help us to.
I think I might be the only person on the planet that hasn't seen a demo yet, because I had to leave the last day of Imagine early. And so I know everybody's all excited about this. I haven't seen any demos. If somebody could link me to a demo, that would be fantastic.
Why don't you go to, here's what you do.
A live reaction YouTube video here on the stream. If somebody would send me a link to it, that'd be amazing.
Go to somethingdigital.com/contact. Fill out the contact form. And we'll
Dear God, there's something. I tried to give you a little bit. It's like give them an inch, they take them a mile. I tried to give you a little SD promotion, an inch of it.
Yeah.
And you're taking liberties, I must say. Yeah. We do have Jason Cochran in the house. I want to extend him.
Hey, what's up, man?
Welcome, head of engineering.
Oh, by the way, I have to.
The marketplace.
Yeah, he's ingrained in marketplace. One of the things I thought was really interesting is how the needs of marketplace are so different to whatever the other needs of Magento and clients are. For instance, Todd Christensen, who who works with me, he had a very concerned email he sent to me, which was he forwarded me an email from Magento Marketplace that said, here's a bunch of quality extensions you can install. One of which was an order, edit, and delete extension that's on the Magento Marketplace. And he's like, we proactively tell clients that you should never, ever modify or delete an order in Magento. Magento doesn't provide support to do that out of the box because it's a bad accounting practice. Like, you should never do that. You shouldn't edit an order in place or delete an order. But the marketplace is repping that you should install this extension that does that. And I thought that was interesting.
Interesting. Jason, your thoughts?
Yeah, Jason, this is all your fault. Actually, this is probably Pranav, who is, who is probably part of marketplace strategy. Jason's in engineering, I think.
Probably is.
But I find it interesting that it is a fundamental need of the marketplace to have a diverse number of extensions that do all kinds of things that might actually be against what your better judgment should be for, but is probably the need of a smaller merchant.
I remember having needs to do order edit before at Clean, the merchant I was in house with, and I can't remember what they are specifically, but that's always been one of those things that, certain fields, I think, it can be handy to be able to edit, but
yeah.
Maybe
well, you can edit shipping and billing address in Magento out of the box. And you can definitely provide refunds and things like that. Anyway, most anything else you can do with an edit in place, or edit which cancels the original order and creates a new order, sub order. Anyway, doesn't matter. 2-factor authentication is coming. Message queue support in open source version. Elasticsearch is being extended down to open source so that they can use it as a NoSQL database for a bunch of things like faceted search. Also PHP 7.2 support, which we covered already, and a bunch of other improvements for import export, Google reCAPTCHA, some ACL change to cache management. I don't know that that's worth calling out, but anyway, there it is. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you frozen again? But you were just actually looking down.
I was just reading the comments. You got to, yeah, you got to get used to this. You got to just take the flow and run with it. But Ben had a good joke. He said we're with talking about the React stuff and the way that he said hopefully we'll react well.
Can always rely on Ben for a nice pun.
Nice pun. Very pun worthy. No, please. Proceed to the by the way, a few people did say yes to my thing about doing Mage Talk for 7 hours straight.
Yeah, people like that idea. Philip hates that idea, but
Philip's not a fan. So we're gonna talk B2B online Chicago.
Well, I already mentioned it. I did want to point out another thing that I realized. So I led a roundtable because I have a podcast called Future Commerce, and so one of the things we talk about is voice commerce. And I led a roundtable at B2B Online in Chicago this week about voice commerce and how it can enable business intelligence and dashboarding capabilities for a business, for a B2B business. And the question very quickly turned to a lot of really interesting things, like I'm doing like a lot of things I hadn't truthfully ever heard of, right? Like, does Magento do punch out? And I'm like, punch out? Yeah, what's punch out?
What's punch out? Cash punch out?
No, yeah, I mean, punch out is a term in B2B that is huge. It's basically like drop shipping, as far as I understand it. It's basically the ability to expose products in your catalog to other people through like portals. So it's like the kind of thing that you might do if you're a drop shipper in B2C. It's in that same vein, but it's the B2B realm. But in all these questions,
set of products, and then you give somebody access to those specifically.
Right. Yeah. But they have the ability to purchase them, in their businesses through to you while offering other things along in their marketplace or in their. So, but anyway, it's neither here nor there. Punch out's not important. It's that there's a whole world of terminology and there's a whole method of delivery for B2B and needs in B2B that I thought we've done a lot of B2B over the last 2 years. Like SD, we're having to level up big time. That's one of the reasons why we had a bunch of team members at B2B Online, is so that we can learn. And as much education as we've had and as much as Magento can do B2B with some of these features, I do recognize that there are gaps there, and we don't know what those gaps are yet. And so we do a lot of interesting things in Magento, but a lot of it's B2C centric. And I want to stress again, it's like my third time on the show in the last 6 months saying this, I don't think anybody's prepared for the onslaught of business in the B2B realm that's coming our way. It is a giant market shift, and hearing billions of dollars, like hearing B2B Online, hearing the speakers there from Fortune 50 companies and the top Fortune 50 companies spending billions of dollars on their e-commerce, them looking at Magento very seriously as a platform, and some of them potentially choosing it, is a big deal. And coming down market too, into the mid-market, when you have hundreds of B2B companies that are all sort of middle market that are doing 10 to 50 million or 50 to 100 million, their needs are going to be vast, and they're going to look at Magento very seriously. And I think we all need to spend the next 6 to 12 months preparing on what that means and educate ourselves in what it means to deliver B2B on Magento. It's going to, we need to learn. And this is like a call to the community to level up.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, it's like I said, it's a huge wave of business coming, and a lot of people are starting to say, because I always like to ask people, what do you specialize in and things like that. I think of you guys around accessibility, and I love the fact that you're just straight up about it. You're like, we're trying to learn B2B. Like some people just say, yeah, we specialize in B2B, and then you dig a little deeper, how long you've been doing that, who have you worked with, and yeah, it's gonna it's gonna be a learning curve, not only the technology side, but probably more so on the business side, understanding their needs, understanding how things, how things work within their organization, HR, how their sales reps react to things. All those things are related to this wave of dollars coming our direction.
And it's a good thing, right? Like Magento finding new markets that they don't, Magento ostensibly has great command over B2B. In that, from a market penetration, the top 300 internet retailer B2B sites, Magento has the majority of the platform market share there. So they're already doing B2B in some way in business. And if you look at some of their very, very large case studies, they're doing it for some not small companies like Anheuser-Busch or AB InBev. They're doing it for, like, Kravit is a new case study that Something Digital just launched that was featured at B2B Online in Peter Sheldon's talk. There's a bunch of really, really large companies that you've never heard of too, that do a tremendous amount of, like, one of the companies I talked to at B2B Online in Chicago this week is the company. They're like CDW in that they supply computer parts and computer supplies and, mobile handset supplies and things like that to very large companies. They're a $4 billion company. You've never heard of them. I've never heard of them.
Right.
They're a $4 billion company, and they power the Google Play Store. If you have ever bought a handset from Google or any accessories, they own the entire web experience, and they do all of the wholesale, they do all of the warehousing, WMS, and fulfillment for Google.
Right.
And they're just, for one of those guys, there's 20 others just like them that do that for other brands as well.
It's wild. Yeah. And it's because you sort of, by definition of what B2B is, we don't really know who these players are. A big B2C company, because they're marketing to you as a consumer. All these big B2B companies, unless you're in that space,
they're vertical specific, right? So they only do auto parts. So if you're not in auto parts, you've never heard of those guys.
Yeah.
Right?
David, by the way, David Stilson, who's doing a B2B build out right now for they're a RV parts wholesaler or manufacturer, said that, it's a totally different language, all the different B2B stuff, and a lot of complexity on things like pricing, units of measure, inventory status, punch outs, etc.
Anyway,
so yeah,
I find it fascinating in that, the needs that we would wind up having to custom build on some things in Magento even today in 2018 are table stakes for some companies, and they're going to begin to look at Magento more seriously, and we all kind of just have to be ready for that.
Totally.
Right. Woo, boy. That was
woo, darling. I could go for another 2 hours.
I know you could. I'm not going to let you.
Those watch time metrics would be amazing.
They're pretty good right now, actually. We've commanded people's attention because we're leading the charge.
We are. We're commanding and leading.
So what else you got going on? I've got another 2 minutes or so. What else is
happening? One thing I wanted to mention here. I saw a post from Casey Jones on LinkedIn, who I think does growth strategist startup stuff. But what her post was basically was like, women of LinkedIn, I want to connect with you. And basically what her thing is that she said that, like, not to say, like, because a lot of times the discussion around women in tech, things like that, is like, men are the enemy, whatever. So she started out and posted a video on LinkedIn and was like, listen, I love connecting with everybody, men, women, everybody. But I've noticed a pattern. She said that like she put out a request for people to connect with her, and it was like mostly men, and that maybe the women like were more hesitant to connect, maybe a little bit more reserved. Always would put a message in the connect request, whereas a lot of the men wouldn't. And her thing was like, listen, like I want to connect with other women. I want to empower other women. And so she created this W2W kind of keyword in her profile to be like, hey, if you're another woman, just connect with me. Let's connect. Let's, encourage each other. And so I just thought that was a cool initiative that I saw. Obviously in the comments, there was a bunch of dudes getting kind of butthurt about it. And it's a little annoying, but yeah, I thought that was a cool, way to approach it that I appreciated. So, yeah, wanted to mention that.
I want to say there's a couple things that I'm super impressed with. One is that it took you 18 months to get on the social justice train, but you're finally here.
I'm on the train, seatbelts buckled in. I'm got my laptop on the tray top in the train, and
I mean, this
nice
isn't social justice, but it's a good shorthand for the kinds of things that that you used to be ambivalent or uninterested in. is the right word.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
That's a great place to end. How dare you, Kalen?
Well, no, because like I've been, there's different ways to approach it. Like I've been a big fan of like, supporting like single mothers in developing countries that are trying to support a family. And like, that's been a big part of my heart for, many years.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
And, and this issue gets expressed in different ways, in different contexts, business, online context and things like that. And so, so that's it. That's the deal, man.
Hashtag much love, man. This is
hashtag virtue signaling, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, that's what
I'm no, just kidding. Anywho, well, I guess we're about at our time, Phillip. So thanks for joining. I'm going to continue on. No, I'm just kidding. Not kidding.
You have to talk for people to see you, but I'm raising the roof right now. Thanks for joining us, everybody. That's creepy when I
thanks guys.
Like that. Don't do that.
Raise that roof. Well, hey, thanks for listening. We really appreciate it if you would give us a like and a subscribe. I know it sounds really cheesy, but we're desperately trying to hack the YouTube algorithm. So give us a like, give us a subscribe, help us out, throw us a bone. And while you're at it, do the other stuff, the podcast.
Yeah.
You know what to do.
Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe over on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. Make it happen.
In finer podcast retailers near you.
Yeah.
And but thanks everybody for joining in. I really enjoyed the questions and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I really
that was
think
awesome.
It adds to, because we only know so much. I mean, I know a lot. Phillip knows some things, but it really adds to the the overall knowledge. So thanks so much. And we will see you next week. Same time, same place. And next week, we're going to go for 2 hours. Bug Phillip about that. Tweet him about that and tell him if you want us to go for 2 hours.
No. And we'll see you in Atlanta tomorrow at the MailChimp headquarters, Citizen Supply in Ponce City Market. Come on out and see me.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.